Good morning. Back at you with Misty and Mister. So let's jump in here and see what transpired. All right. So Mister was down 4.46 and Misty was up 0.46. How about that? We outperformed almost 5%. That was after getting destroyed by over 10% and then another almost 3%. So that's a little what Misty did and the option fund managers did is they rolled out of their 1550, and the purpose there was to collect a bunch of cash because they had to get out of these ugly calls here. So let's go over it. I'll drag over the Misty sheet in a minute, but actually let's do that. But this is probably going to do more to confuse you than help you. So let's take a look. So we're looking at Misty. So they sold their 1550 and they sold it for 53 and they bought back the put for 32. So there's a $21 gain on 2,535 contracts. Now, they turned around. There was a purpose in this because they liked that strike price, but they needed the cash to buy all these calls at a big loss that we got capped on. So they went back to the 1550 and these were going to expire. They pretty much were going to have to do this, as I mentioned, on Friday. Why not do it on Wednesday? So they went out to 816, but they put the same strike price. So they went right back at the 25.35. But because of all that time involved, the price went up, right? And remember, they're above these. They're at 1590. So they got to pay more for a call than they do a put because they're already $40 worth of premium, or sorry, $40 worth of in the money value. So if it closed tomorrow and it was 1590, it's worth $40. They know that, we know that. So you're going to get 149 and not 176. So that cost them, that delta is $27 and they gained 21 here. So they really didn't gain any money by rolling, but they had to roll because of time, right? And you always want to get in where you're in a new one where time decay is active. Time decay is not that active with a couple days to go. So here's the one that crushed them. They had sold these for $44, right? The 1455, 719 expiration. Well, that was fine when it was 4% out of the money. But when BTC took off and ran to 1666, came down to 1610-ish, came down to 1590, then, they had to buy it back. And that was going to expire. So they just went ahead and bit the bullet. Cost them $130 for something they sold for 44. So that's 3 times the loss that they gained. So they were able, though, to go out with 2 more days this week and 5 next week on 726 and sell a 1675 when Bitcoin, or MSTR more appropriately, their underlying, closed at 1590. So they got $85. So, in the pre-market with 3 or 4 hours, we're at 65,050, up $320 since yesterday. So it's not like Bitcoin is running right now, but it's not really going down. So for their sake, I hope we stay below this next week. But they are positioned in the money on the 1550. So a lot of things. Let's look at what that meant to us money wise. So let's actually see these in play. Here's the 719. It's not laddered, it's one. We went from having 2.7 million cash flow to having a $19 million loss because we took a 21.8 million. They had handed us 11 million And all of a sudden, when Bitcoin, after the politics, the assassination attempt, whatever you want to attribute it to, it took off Monday, Tuesday, and actually went down a little on Wednesday. But with those 2 days, that cost us 33 million plus the 11 million, right? I mean, it depends on how you want to look at it. We had to spend 33 million. We had collected 11 million. So we had a net $22 million loss. Now, we did go out, as you would expect, the 7 days, seven trading days, go higher, right? 8.49% out of the money as we stand right now, and collect 11 million. But you can see that that's a net loss of 10. Well, the 10 does appear in the new synthetic, right? Because of some trading. So that paper loss, so it's kind of a net, we got a net zero out of this thing. But when I go over here, and I'm going to come back to holdings, I have more to show you um, before I go. So you can see it in both the synthetics. This is the one where we closed everything, right? And we made over 5 million, 5.4 million, right? So we collected 13.4 and we had to spend 8 million one. So we had like a 5.3 million gain. Well, we added that to money we had before, and that yielded us 13.9. But when we went over to the new 1550, I call it 1552, that one, the brand new entry, because we had to spend more for the call than the put that we collected for the put, again, because we're $40 in the money, right? We're at 1590 on a 1550. So that has value. So when I show you on the synthetic, you'll see that we have that gain. So let's go to holdings. So let's cover weekly. So whoops, I didn't update these. These are now 1675, and this is now 1590. So that shouldn't be too hard. So as we stand right now at the close, we're 5.35. When they had written it earlier, it was different. So, and this is a 726, right? It's got 7 trading days, 5.35% out of the money. Now, we wrote for 11 and we're actually have to buy it back for 12 right at the moment. So let's go over to holdings and show that. So here's our synthetic that I mentioned. There's almost 10 million. So if I count that 10 million, it kind of puts us where we were, but we haven't rolled that or we haven't sold it. So I suspect as they move forward, that's what they'll do, especially if it runs past their call and they get in trouble. But if they just keep collecting that money, there's no reason for them to roll it until they get closer to payday, right? The declaration will be 8/6 and they have till 8/16. So they'll roll it when they need the money. I say leave the synthetic alone for the time being. And here's that weekly, right? It's 11, 15, and 12. So you expect that. They sold it for 44 and the closing value is 48. So that it cost them 12.1. I'm not too worried about that unless it gets run by. So that's how we look there. So when you look here, I had to do this 2 or 3 times to double check everything because I wrote, what I'm starting to do? I write down the numbers before I'm going to do all this work. And we had $1.23 in total income and 63 cents was over in our short. So both those guys, it was like 9 million, 8 million. They were both contributing. They were both winners. Well, look what the short call did, right? We had that $32 million hit and only a $21 million gain. So, and it's even worse than that because in the synthetic, we've got another 10 million to go. So I think that was even worse than what I was. Oh, I see why it's that way. Because on that short call, this money isn't all back, right? The paper loss is showing this against us, but actually so that's why we don't really have all that money. We got handed the money, but we don't really have it in a lot of ways. It's a paper gain. So that's why if they have to go spend it, they gotta close that out and go somewhere else. So with this situation, we got destroyed, but we already knew that. So they did what they had to do. Really, they rolled out of one. I like that we got a $10 million gain, and if I go in and I add 10 on 14, I've got another 70 cents. So we're really pretty close back up to what we had. 70 and 40 is like $1.10. Um, in terms of, well, this isn't even. The problem is we've got a $7 million gain here and a $12 million. I need to check that a little bit and just see. Uh, but I'm pretty sure, hang on, 19. Now that's giving us credit there. Uh, 7.5. Okay, I'll double check it, but the best I can tell, we just really got destroyed on that situation. So I'll keep you abreast of it. This is what happens, right? This is why sometimes when it continues to run, you want to be in the underlying or you want to be in a BTC 2X or something where you can capture all that. Now, we're going to be in a better situation after the split with MSTR because it's going to be, depending on where it's trading at. Right now, what's it trading at? One for 1590. That's a 1,000, or sorry, that's a $159 stock. If it's 1600, it's a $160 stock. So a little bit easier to play options uh, or buy the underlying and write some of your own. Um, but it's just a situation where you get capped. It's not good, guys. All right, I'm optimistic. Misty's going to be Ms. Misty and is going to pay us. We just need to get through this. We're positioned. If Bitcoin can run up, not that far, okay, 1590, it can go to 1675 without hurting us, but that's 7 trading days. Now the synthetic is primed. Okay, guys, this is Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation again. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Let's go, Mr. Let's go, Misty. Hopefully you caught my coin, Coney. Okay, guys, bye for now.